So I'd like to introduce to you the gentleman whose idea it was to secure and preserve this barn, Perry Neuman. And this is his daughter, Dr. Tonya Boening. You go by Neuman, is that correct? Or do you go by Boening?
I go by Boening.
Boening, it's okay. Dr. Tonya Boening, a local veterinarian. And so we'd like to talk a little bit about what went into this beautiful barn behind us that was recently awarded the Barn of the Year for 2021. So first of all, I'd like to, a little bit of background. How long have you owned this particular barn?
I think he bought it in, I believe, 2016.
16 or 15, yeah.
So it's a relatively new acquisition for you. This is something that's been in the family for many, many years.
Right.
Tell me, what is it that inspired you to grab a hold of this 5 years ago?
Well, I just, like I say, a lot of people thought I was probably crazy because it was rough. It was rough. And, but I thought it was could really make a cool barn out of it. Fix it back up, and I just believe in a lot of those things that can't be reproduced.
And had you had experience with rehabbing a barn before, or this was going to be the first for you?
This is the first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Well,
but I've been in the construction business many years, so.
So you had some notion of how to handle that saw and hammer that was needed to make it happen, and a shovel, I understand. Too.
Oh yeah, lots of shovel work.
So, do you have some idea of the barn's age when it was built?
I'm gonna guess. It's purely a guess. It's in the late 1800s.
Late 1800s. Are the beams inside hand hewn?
Yes.
And as we'll talk here in a minute, in your restoration, you found out how to use an axe for hand hewing new beams for some replacements in the basement as well.
Right.
The style of the barn would be, what is the size? Can you tell me? It's what the footprint of this is? I read it, but
it's like 40 or 45 by 70. Okay,
40 by 70 gambrel roof barn. It's a timber frame, hand-hewn timbers, which leads us to believe that it dates back into the 1800s, or late 1800s. Early 18 or 1900s. When did you you bought it in 16, when did you begin the restoration?
Almost immediately.
Yeah, right after he bought it, yeah. He had to patch up this wall. Was already, the door had flown off of it. There was steel missing off the roof.
Yeah. That
was the first step.
Outline for us what the primary restoration projects were needed, the biggest part of the heavy-duty projects to bring it to this condition.
Well, I think it may sound odd, but once we got the outside boards fixed so that we could keep that kind of tight, took care of the roof right away. And I had this idea about building the flag, so I did that on my own house, and then we brought it over here and assembled it one day and put it up. But that was the thing that kind of gave everybody the let's do it thing.
Yes. Also, it inspired some others beyond this crazy guy who had this idea. Yeah. That's good, and you got your family involved and some others in the community as well.
Right. So, and the neighbor across the street, which we bought the barn from, he had the story. He says, because I never told him that we were putting a flag up. And I seen him like a couple weeks later, and he says, "What in the heck did you do?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, every time I turn around, there's somebody stopping and taking a picture. And he's got dogs back there, so they make his dogs
so they make a ruckus as well. And you're always a little bit suspicious when a car drives very slowly past your place and stops. I have that. I have that experience as well.
So I told him, I said, well, all you got to do is put a can out there, donations,
Yes, pictures are not free. So, and you said briefly when we started, but what really was the inspiration for for doing this to this old barn? You don't live here, so it's not
Right,
like it's
right.
with you every day. But what was the inspiration for making this happen?
Well, I've never done one, and I knew I could. So I thought,
He likes
well,
to save old things.
Yes.
The house that he lives in was an old house that they were going to tear down, and he told the guy, well, I'll take it off your hands.
Ah,
And that was like a 5-year project when I was growing up.
so the home you live in has some aspects of your restoration touch as well. Like,
probably a little bit.
I understand one of the big jobs you had was replacing beams in the basement, and that was a little unique. You didn't call the lumber company to come and do that for you. Tell us what you did there.
Well, what we did is I kind of had an idea what we needed, so I measured them up. And then at my homestead over in Sheboygan, my son-in-law and we went and cut the trees down, drug them out, and we did it in like February. So it wasn't bad. You know, you don't want to do that kind of thing this time of the year.
Right.
But
About 81 here today.
yeah. But once I figured out a system, it was relatively
Yes.
easy to do. But I wanted to maintain the best that we could do for the time period of that,
Yes.
you know.
To maintain that the integrity of the original way in which that was done.
Right.
And I've seen some photos of it, and you did it primarily without hydraulic equipment either. You did you did the old-fashioned way of
Right.
brute labor to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's wonderfully done, and some of us will have the opportunity to see this. What reaction do you get from others, either when they first saw it or when they visit now? What kind of reaction are you getting from people that see it or know of it?
The people that seen it before just say, "Wow," you know.
Yes. Yeah.
But most people love it.
Yes.
I think people do really appreciate it too. Like a lot of the neighbors, when we were fixing it up, they'd stop by and, you know, just to see what was going on and look around and just, you know, say thanks for not letting it fall down.
Yes.
So
I have to say that I saw it only for the first time only about an hour ago, and as I was approaching it, it really is a striking figure in the landscape here from a long distance away. You've got a clearing here, and it shows up beautifully.
Right.
Did anybody get married in this barn?
That's
Yeah.
right. I understand that one of the significant events after it was first restored involved you, Tonya. Tell us about that. And that other guy
Yeah.
that's around
yeah,
here too, and
he's a
involved
little
him.
camera shy. Yeah, we got married in the barn in September of 2018. Mostly everything happened in the barn, so we had the ceremony and everything in there, and all the dancing, and there was a lot of people and a lot of jumping, and she stood tall.
Wonderful.
So it was fun. It was great. Everybody appreciated it, and everybody loved it. So it was really
Wonderful.
cool.
Perry, obviously one of the most distinctive difference about this barn from most every other barn we see is this giant flag that is attached, the American flag that is flying, Old Glory. Tell us about that, what's behind having to do that, and I understand it's not the only one you ever created.
Well, you know, it's funny. I had this vision for it, and so I started cutting, because all the stars are made out of barn tip, and so I thought, well, that's the first one I ever made. So so trying to make it so it's in proportion, so it looks right, and the day that we went to put it together, you know, I had a crew over here, and everybody's all excited. Okay, we got this thing. We're building it on the ground. We put ropes to pull it up, and we actually had to hook it to a truck on the other side of the barn and pull it up.
Pull it up over the roof?
Pull it up because it was so heavy.
Ah, yeah.
And but I'll tell you, that inspires so many people for so many things that
Yes.
you can't.
Right. Yeah. Certainly gives an added special meaning to the restoration, obviously, and from the symbol of having the American flag on there. I did notice in a brief walk through the barn that this is not the only flag that exists. You've made a number of others, and you've got some on hand. What's the plan for those?
Well,
That's the biggest one.
By all,
This is the biggest one he's ever made.
In my spare time in the winter, I'll make a few flags.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing is cutting the stars, because I do it all by hand. Everybody says, well, you could do it with a press and this, and I said, yeah, you could, but that takes the whole spirit out of it, the way I see it. And so...
Are they all fashioned with tin stars?
They are.
They are. And this is tin that has been reclaimed from old building?
Old barn.
Old barn, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And there's a few little ones we'll show you in the basement, but they're 4 by 8, but those are all hand cut, hand bent. But my other daughter over here, we're working on another barn for her. So one of those flags will go on her barn.
We'll be interested at some point in the future of seeing that barn. I understand it's going to travel first, though, before it is in its final resting place. So we'll look forward in years to come. And I understand you have a wedding to be planned here within a few months, so it'll be the second wedding for the family in this building. But then what are your other ideas for its future?
I personally eventually would like to turn it, use it again for hay storage and, get it back to, agricultural barn use. Maybe a few feeder calves in the basement. My husband wants to do pigs, but we'll talk about that another time. So, we're not, we love that people love it. We don't necessarily know that we want it to stay an event barn per se, but we just like to keep it nice and use it for all we can.
Very good. So we have here an example of a barn that is of dual use. It's agricultural roots, which is what it was originally built for, will be used, but also be adapting it for some other uses, which is a very popular concept for barns today. So we again, congratulations to the family for this and for your award as Barn of the Year.